the responsibility for law and order in Trinidad and Tobago rests primarily with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
But is it as black and white as that, though? Because many times we hear people talking about, okay, well, we need to, the onus is on us as individuals or citizens. So what role is the citizen of Trinidad and Tobago do we have to play in terms of addressing crime?
Well, the role of the citizens, as I understand it, is to see to what extent that they are able to help as they possibly can. But the citizens themselves, in and of themselves, cannot do that. The primary functionary in that regard would have to be the police service, who would have to reach out in some way to the population to let the population know the kind of and nature of assistance that they need.
I know with your former involvement, president of the Police Second Division Association, from that standpoint, I'm wondering what is the status right now of the structure of the police service, whether or not it's a leadership issue. What is happening from your view?
Well, I've always expressed the view that one of the problems that bedevils the police service is the whole question of the management and the leadership of it. And the sooner those issues are addressed, it's very likely that the potential for an improvement in the quality of the service that they now provide could happen.
So what is the issue with the leadership?
Well, one of the, or basically the role of leadership is, insofar as the police service is concerned, is to demonstrate some competence in administration and some knowledge of the direction in which you are going to take the organization that you lead. Secondly, is that they must be able to earn the respect and admiration of the person they command, and some form of status and influence in the controlling power structure. And at the same way, develop mechanisms by which you are able to now meet the needs of those that you, those that are under your command.
Especially with that the second point you made of respect and earning that, garnering that. The question of having individuals act in positions without being put into the post substantively, what do you think, how do you think that factors in to that whole kind of earning respect, garnering respect?
Well, are you referring to some specific position, or?
I'm thinking specifically about the commissioner of police.
Well, whether a person is acting in the post of commissioner or holds the substantive position of commissioner of police, that does not take away from his responsibility to discharge his duties to the best of ability, which is consistent with the oath of office he takes. So whether he acts or not, I don't see it. It ought not to really impact on his performance, or his or her performance, rather.
Okay, the mechanisms that we're using now, the leadership or management of the police service that they're using now, is there a gap between where we are and where you think we should be? And if so, how do we bridge that gap?
Well, I am not quite sure, one, if there is a gap, and in the sense that in any organization is that one sets certain goals and objectives. Those goals and objectives have to be very, very clear to those who would have to execute them. And the management of that process, so for instance, how the jobs are organized, how work is organized, how, for instance, the jobs are designed, how suitable are the persons to the task, and what kind of reward system you have in place. Those are things that contribute to the achievement of those objectives, and at the same time bring about the levels of efficiency and effectiveness that you certainly would desire.
What do you think is happening, or what do you think is the case right now with worker morale? And I say that within the police service, because in terms of inspiring people to be their best selves, moving forward and address the situation of crime, I'm wondering what you think is happening on the ground right now.
Well, the thing about it is that there are some structural and systemic problems, coupled with, I said, which I believe is the whole question of the leadership and management of the police service that continues to bedevil the police service, that for every week or every month is that you would hear something about crime and the level of criminal activity, and the population seem to be suggesting that they have lost this faith in the police service, and they feel that the police service cannot now do what it is that they were set up to do in the first instance.
You think that loss of faith is warranted?
Well, I don't know if it's warranted or not, but I'm saying that the impression that is being given by members of the public and even some of the commentators in the media, that is the impression that they seem to be conveying.
I'm wondering though, in terms of interacting with the police service, what would be the significance of that perceived loss of faith on some people's part? What implications can that have on impacting, especially if people are supposed to be holding hands with the police service who have the responsibility of addressing crime in the country?
Well, all right. If, for instance, one agrees that the role of the police service are basically three roles that they have. One is to increase the risk of the criminal being caught. Secondly, it is to reduce criminal opportunities for criminal activity. And the third one is where you develop methods, systems, as the case may be, to prevent the commission of crimes. And if it is that those things are not seen to be done, again, that in itself could contribute to people feeling that the police may not be doing what it is that they're supposed to do, whether it be imagined or real.
So if that is the possible perception, what recourse do people have? And who, in terms of like, who do we turn to?
Well, you don't have any choice but to turn to the police service. But I think having said that is that there ought to be some clinical review of the police service and they develop a new way forward, because my own feeling is that they certainly cannot continue in the way in which that they are going, because the police service is one of the, if not the most formidable agency of social control. And if the police service as an agency is disintegrated, what the implications for that are, one is that the development of vigilante groups on the one hand, and on the other hand is that what you have is that the dispensation of vigilante justice, so that it means that the restitutiveness of the society can be lost or jeopardized, as the case may be, and that certainly cannot be anything for any kind of stability and good and proper living, because what people want, I am sure, is to be able to go about their legitimate business with the minimum of discomfort and social dislocation.
If we had to, you talk about changing the mechanisms, methodology, what are some of the incremental steps? Okay, this specific item is something that we're going to change, and we're going to change it this way. What are some of those?
Well, one, I think, is that they have to start with having some mental revolution that would orient the police service to the peculiar circumstances and what is required at this time in 2016 in order to make a police service earn the respect and admiration of the national community.
What is community policing, and does it have a role to play in this, in the method change, in the methodology shift?
Well, community policing may, as well as it may not have a role, but I think the introduction of community policing at this time, I don't think that we will get anywhere with that, simply because of the apparent distrust between the public and the police, and the issues of communication between the police and the public as well, and how the public themselves feel about the police. So that they first have to restore that level of trust and confidence between the public and the police before you can even think about the introduction of community policing.
Keeping hope alive for that communication and that level of trust to be restored. But does that start with the police? Does it start from the ground level? Does it start at the top? How is that level of trust restored?
Well, there's a shared responsibility, I think, is that there is a commissioner of police, and clearly the commissioner of police must have some significant role in the initiation of such a process. In addition to that, there are other agencies with whom the police service collaborate and they integrate in order to operate. So I think those are the agencies, whether it be the Ministry of National Security, whether it be the Police Service Commission, whether it be the Chief Personnel Officer, as the case may be, need to come together and see to what extent that some comprehensive plan can be developed and taking the police service forward.